Hi, this is Amrita Sukumar, and I'm bringing to you this podcast called Unsettling. Look around you. Everyone is trying to create their own story. Make a tiny change in someone's life by just following their passion, and in turn, inspiring the others to follow suit. This podcast brings to you stories of people who have defied the definition of settled set by the society and have created their own. They have found happiness in their version of settled. What is yours? With the holiday season right around the corner, our sweet tooth keeps calling out to us. And with the pandemic seemingly here to stay, I thought, why not call a baker and get a few tips about baking and at the same time know about her journey into this world. So let me welcome today's guest and fellow unsettler and the founder of Trip to Overnile, Rashmi Vibhandik. Hi Rashmi, how are you?
Hi Amrita, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So what are you baking today?
Today I'm on and off, and my family needs me more than my cakes, so I've taken an off, and I'll be back to baking in the new year.
Oh, so just 2 days later. I mean, of course, people don't know that we have edited this we've recorded this in advance, but then, it's 2 days to New Year's. So, Rashmi, I know that you were in the corporate and then you moved into baking. So, what were the factors that helped you choose this profession?
Okay, so speaking about my journey, I was an engineer and I still am. Like I did my engineering and then I was doing a job in an IT firm for 1.5 years almost. And that experience was good. But then that profession was something that is something different from what I want to do. I did not enjoy it that well. So it used to always be very stressful and I used to be quite unhappy with it, to put it very simply. And when I used to be back home, I used to be like, I'm not really happy with it. And then I used to just start baking randomly for my family or for my friends. And that gave me a very different kind of a high. So, and when I thought about it after 1.5 years, I was like, why not why not I make this my profession itself? And then I was like, let's give it a try. Let's give this thing a shot. And then I left my job and I started baking, and that's how it started. And then that was like totally different. My job was like a 9 to 6 wala thing, and this profession is like a full-time job. For a baker, there's no day, no night, and you don't even have any offs, so you have to be like available all the time. So there's a lot of difference between a corporate job and being an entrepreneur.
Oh, so that is how you chose baking. So were you really good at cooking and baking from before, or were you like us, when you had to look up recipes and then you had a lot of disasters and then you started baking well?
Exactly like that. I was not good at it at all. And I wasn't into cooking and baking at all. Like I used to be around my mom whenever she used to cook. But then I wasn't too much interested into, cooking it myself. I was more of a, consumer over there. I am still a big time foodie, or whenever someone else makes a cake for me, I'm more happy. So still, so it's like, I wasn't really that good at it. I used to just observe, and then I had my share of disasters, as you said. Even after I started doing this professionally, I did experiment a lot of recipes, which every baker has to, and I went through a whole lot of failures. And but then that's a part of it. And my family supported me a lot in it. Like they used to be my guinea pigs. They used to taste everything. Even if it was bad, they used to tell me whatever it is, but then they never let it go waste. So
sweet.
I was never good at it.
Okay, so you like it when cakes are baked for you. So I'll try to bake one. It might not be so great, but
I would love that.
I'll still try.
For sure.
So then, do you have a setup? Do you have a shop from which you function, or are you working from home? And how do you get clients? How did you get your first client?
Okay, so I am a home baker as of now. I'm planning to have my own studio in the coming year.
Right.
But then, as of now, I'm a home baker and I work from my own kitchen, and my
Right.
house is my workspace. And coming back to the next part of the question, like how I get my orders, most
Right.
of the orders, like almost 90% of them, are through social media, as everything these days is through social media. And I get some of them through offline clients also, like word of mouth publicity and all. But then maximum of them are through the social media. And my first order was through one of my close friends. Like she introduced me to her friends as a baker, and then one of her friends was very sweet enough to order his mom dad's 25th anniversary cake, which was a huge cake, a 2 kg cake. And I was so worried and I was so nervous to, make it for them, because it was a big occasion and I definitely didn't want to spoil it. So
Right.
yeah, that's how I got my first order, and that's how I still get orders through my friends and my family. They are my advertisers.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can always go and check your social media page
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give you orders. So you're
Yes.
she's working from Pune, just for the listeners. So anybody in Pune can order, not from any other city.
Thank you.
So then how did you learn the skill? Like, did you learn it online or did you go for courses? How did you learn baking?
So, narrowing it down, I did not really do any kind of a professional course, as in no diploma, nothing of that sorts. But I had started learning it from cookbooks and through YouTube and online, basically, and experimenting it. Experimenting recipes is the biggest teacher that you're going to have if you're into this field, because unless and until you experiment it yourself, you're not going to get it. Even if you do a course of 6 months or a year, still you have to experiment and come up with your own recipes to master it. No one can teach you baking as such, is what I feel. This is my personal opinion. But then it's true. It's my personal experience that I'm talking about. So that is how I learned it. And before 2 years, I did a course for cake decorating. Not exactly cake decorating, but there was a technique called as isomold. You make sugar sculptures. Okay, this might seem new to you, but isomold is a kind of sugar which you melt and then you sculpt various figurines out of it. So that is something I learned from a baker from Spain. And it was a really nice experience, and it keeps helping me into my bakes. It basically made me very much confident that even I can do it, and I am still experimenting with it, and I use it in some of my cakes. But that was the only workshop I did, and that was the one-day workshop. Other than that, I have been experimenting and I'm still learning, I would say, and I will keep learning.
Okay, so basically in baking, theory is not as important as much as practicals, because you have to understand how the proportion goes and everything works out. And I think the beauty of being online, I mean, of course there are pros and cons, but the beauty of being online is that you could learn something from a baker in Spain.
Exactly.
That's so beautiful. So I have this one query that came up in my head.
Yeah, tell me.
So when you bake a cake, right? So you cannot know how it is going to taste until you have a finished product.
True.
Right? So how do you know whether it is well done or not before you send it out to your clients?
Like in the beginning, when I used to kind of experiment with my recipes, it was how you are, putting it down, that I was worried how it's going to turn out. But then now I have a particular recipe which is fixed. Like for eggless cake, this is the recipe that I'm going to use. So I know how it goes. And baking is kind of a science. You can't go, cooking and baking में difference यही होता है that you cannot go just by कि एक pinch salt डाल दिया, एक pinch ये डाल दिया. It's not that way. You have to use a proper weighing scale, and you have to weigh out the ingredients. If it calls for 250 grams, it cannot be 240 grams. It has to be 250 only. So it is so accurate. and with time you gain a kind of a, hand over it, and when you use the ingredients in that proportion, it ends up being almost the same every time. But then many a times the climate and your oven temperature, or the overall ambience in which you're working also affects, the temperatures also affect the final product. As in case of cake decorating, if it's rainy season, the cream tends to become pretty loose even after whipping it like in a cold atmosphere. So it's really difficult to work with it. If you have heard of fondant, which is used in cake decorating, even that gets very sticky because there's a lot of humidity in the air. So that affects the final product as well. So there are a lot of things that affect the final product, but then with time, you understand कि मुझे क्या करना चाहिए so that my product turns out to be good.
Okay.
So now it's like, it's pretty easy to judge.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that out. Because I actually thought, because, okay, as a chef, as you said, chef is something you put a pinch of salt and then everything is fixed. So you can at least taste the food before giving it to somebody कि हाँ ये लो. But you can't just have a piece of cake and नहीं वो decoration ही ऐसा था cake का कि एक piece कटा हुआ है इसमें से.
True. That it was a very genuine kind of a query. I get it.
Yeah.
But then once you start baking and if you follow one particular recipe for multiple years, then it turns out to be the same almost every time.
Right. Oh, now I get it. So basically I need a weighing scale so that not just to weigh my weight, but also for weighing the ingredients of the cake.
Yeah.
So when you spoke of different decoration techniques that you learned, so what are the different techniques? Can you just give a brief gist of it?
Yeah. So if you talk about our country, like we are used to those cream-based cakes which have those rosettes and those swirls on the sides. And at the max, these days, there are like drips on the sides and all of that. But then there are a whole lot of techniques which a baker can use for cake decorating. And within these past 2-3 years, it has taken really another level. Bakers are trying a whole lot of new things. And especially the clients are also ready to try out new things. People want to surprise their loved ones with something unique, which, depicts them and which depicts something that they like and which is definitely going to make them happy. So apart from cream-based cakes, now you can use normal whipped cream, you can use buttercream, or you can use ganache. Ganache is something which is chocolate-based. You mix chocolate and cream and then you cover the cake with that. And that is a kind of a topping you can use. So these are 3 types of toppings you can use for the cake. And if I have to talk about the decoration techniques, there are so many of them. There are innumerable techniques and you can, experiment with so many of them. Now I spoke about one that I learned, which is isomalt. That is a very beautiful kind of a technique. If you like Google it, it looks very beautiful. It looks almost like glass, a glass wala sculpture. So that is one. Then recently I'm working on wafer paper. It looks exactly like a normal paper, and when you apply a little bit of moisture to it and color to it, you can turn it into beautiful flowers or butterflies or some that kind of stuff. You can check it on my profile. I have experimented with it, and I'm still doing the same. And there's rice paper which you can use, which is used for spring rolls. If you have had spring rolls, the cover that you use, you can use that also in cakes. These days, it's really, really trending. Rice paper sales are very, very trending these days.
Okay.
So that's one. Then there are anti-gravity cakes. There are cakes which move. Then there are, the possibilities are endless. There are so many techniques that, you can experiment. That's the beauty of, this field. That it doesn't turn monotonous ever.
So I'm just trying to guess. So isomalt is the cake which you used for the jellyfish?
No.
That's sugar.
The one which I used for the jellyfish was rice paper.
That's rice paper.
And for the jellyfish.
So is rice paper edible?
Yes. Everything is edible.
Oh, it's edible. Okay.
Yeah, wafer paper is edible. rice paper is edible.
Okay.
All of them are
So the entire cake is edible. It's not just decor.
Yes. It's
Okay.
all edible.
So, well, you spoke about a lot of things that keep on happening in terms of decor, right? So there's something new that I saw recently on the internet where people were trying to hide gifts inside the cake. So, like it used to pop out of the cake when they try to cut it or something. So, do you feel the pressure of keeping up with the trends, and what do you do to stay relevant, in this ever-changing field?
So trends are coming up so rapidly in this industry, and if you look just in this particular year, wherein people were at home and they were trying out new techniques, and everybody was like using their brains and their creativities, there have been so many trends in cake baking and decorating that if you try and keep up with all of the trends, I think you will somewhere get saturated, because you can't keep following everyone. Because everyone is doing the same thing. So how will you stand out of the crowd then if you keep following everyone? So you have to make a wise decision as to what you really want to follow. Like you might have seen something on social media, which is that you pick up, there is a sheet around the cake. You pick the sheet up and all of the liquid falls on the cake. And it's covered with glitter. So that looks very beautiful, but that does not seem edible to me personally, because that glitter is too much of glitter to consume. I know that though it is edible, but it's not safe. And mostly that it's made for kids because it's very, very colorful and sparkly, but then it's not safe. So you have to take your own decisions. I have been following a whole lot of trends, like you spoke about the pop-out cake. Those stands are very much in trend these days, that you click the button and then the gift pops out and all. But some of the trends I do try, but some of them I don't. I like one of them which I tried and it worked very well with my clients was the photo memory cake. Like you pull the top of the cake and there are a whole lot of photos of the birthday girl or the birthday boy which come out of the cake like a reel, and it's kind of a very beautiful and a nostalgic moment for that person. So that is something I tried for one of my friends, and then it just got a lot of attention from my clients and I got a lot of orders for that cake. And I really enjoyed making them because it made something, it made some sense. As in, I like my cakes to make sense. It shouldn't be something really, really stupid that, ठीक है, it looks good, but then मतलब ही नहीं बनता कोई.
So that is my कुछ और issues है, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that is what my take on this is, that I follow trends which I feel are safe and which make sense to me. Other than that, I would love to make trends myself better way.
Okay. Oh, I hope you do so, and then I keep sharing those trends on my page.
Thank you.
So I do get some followers from this female. That's what I'm trying to do. So Rashmi, there's this one query I wanted to ask. Now that you talk about trends and you spoke about how much effort goes into creating an icing or a decoration, so how much time does it take for you to create one of your signature cakes?
It depends on the intricacy of it. If there are a lot of details, if we speak about the jellyfish wala cake which you spoke about, so that took me almost an entire day. Like I made the toppers and all the previous day. Like I required the half of the previous day and then the next half. So because it was my for my nephew, I wanted to make it really, really special, and I tried to put up a whole lot of things into it and a whole lot of techniques into it. So it took a lot of time. But then 1 to 1.5 days for 1 or 2 kgs cake is, I guess, sufficient. If you know the skill
that
well.
Much time. My God.
It's
a
very
time. I didn't expect it to take that much time.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you
thought
can
it's like
finish
maximum
it.
like a 3-hour or 4-hour thing, but
No, that a normal cake takes 3 to 4 hours, because if I have to walk you through the process, it's like taking out all of the ingredients, weighing it. Okay. Then it's like mixing all of it and making a batter. Then there is time to bake it in the oven. then it takes time to cool down. That's the most amount of time that a cake consumes to cool down. It has to totally cool down for you to decorate it. Then you have to simultaneously, you can prepare for the decorations, and then you have to put it onto the cake. And if you are an expert, then it takes a little bit less time for you to finish the cake as the decorating part. But then if you are like a beginner or like that, then it takes a little bit longer if you want a very finished cake, a neat one, and with those neat sharp edges. So it takes time. So it depends on the level of expertise as well.
My God. Okay, so it takes a lot of time to bake a cake with that kind of decor. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So, are there any other goodies that you have baked and you've tried apart from baking cakes?
Yes, a lot of them. Like when I began, as I was speaking about the blogging thing, in the beginning, I did not plan to take up orders. Like it happened to me, as I said, from one of my close friends. And I started with my own website. I used to blog recipes. As I used to practice them, I used to photograph them and then blog the recipes. Right. And that's how like it started. So blogging recipes was something that I was intending to do for a lot of time, but then it turned into like taking up orders. And so putting up, finding a recipe and then experimenting it, then properly photographing it and then writing a recipe for it. It's a whole lot of a process.
So you kept on trying new cakes and new goodies and cookies and everything.
Yeah, I first, like the name suggests, you might have guessed it from the name, that it's trip to oven aisle. So I like kind of, if you read the about us section from my website, it says that I wanted to travel to all of the places in the world and try out different desserts from all of them. And so that was what it meant. Not like physically visited, but with my baking.
Through the recipes,
Yeah, so I tried a whole lot of desserts at that point in time, and I still keep trying. Like there are brownies and cookies and cheesecakes, and there are a whole lot of pastries. Not the pastries that we have a different definition of pastry in India. We call a small cake, a square, small, tiny cake as a pastry, but that's not a pastry. That's still a cake. Actually, pastry is, in the baking world, it is, if you have khari, you might be knowing what khari is, or
yes,
a puff.
I do,
That is actually a pastry. Yeah, so that is called as a puff pastry. Yeah. And there are various kinds of pastries.
But that's not sweet, right?
Yeah, no, you can, no. I mean the whole dough thing. You can put sweet fillings into it. Like where this comes from is France. Over there, what they do is this. There is this pastry sheet. You cut it into small sections. You put some fruit fillings into it or some compote, and fold it in some beautiful designs and bake it. And all of the layers puff up because of the butter used in the dough, and it gives you kind of a khari wala effect on the outside. But then from the inside, it is filled with all of that gooey, fruity kind of a filling. So that is a puff pastry. Then if you have had baklava, if you know what baklava is,
I've heard of it but never had it. It sounds like a volcano exploding.
Yeah, it's like filled with pistachios, and it's another kind of pastry. It's a phyllo pastry. So there are 4 kinds of pastries: choux pastry, phyllo pastry, puff pastry, and flaky pastry. So yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm not going to bore you with it, but yeah,
it's quite interesting. I'm quite enjoying what you're saying, because this is completely new to me. I had absolutely no idea, because my idea of pastry, as you said, was a piece of cake.
Yeah, I don't know where has it come from, but then it's a wrong definition.
I'm so saddened now. Now I can't go to a baker shop and just, look at a piece of cake and eat it. I'm like, nah, ye pastry nahi, I want pastry. Make one and give it to me.
But now these days, clients are much more educated about it, I think. And they know a lot about these things because of the social media, I think. Because people keep following, those accounts who make such unique desserts, which are from the outside. And then they are kind of educated about it. Yeah.
That is true. I have like basic knowledge because I like food and basically I like sweets. So I have a basic knowledge, know-how of things from the internet, but not as much as you, of course. Do you conduct workshops as well for all these things?
Yes. Before
Okay.
2 years, I conducted my first offline workshop, like a live workshop. And it was a pretty small scale kind of a workshop. There was just 6, 7 students. And I started it that way. And I took just 3 to 4 workshops. And then I basically didn't get time for it, I would say. And taking up workshops is quite a lot of work because you have to prepare all of the ingredients, and right from marketing your workshop to getting entries, sorting them all out, and then preparing them for it. And on top of it, it used to be like a whole day session, right? You can't make cakes like in an hour or so, as I already mentioned. So it used to take the whole day, or I used to take 2 days ka workshop. So you have to even arrange for them for their food, for the lunch and the snacks. So it's like a lot of work. So I didn't get time for it. But then recently I have found a solution for it, which people have already started. I am a bit late in the game, but then I finally did it. I am up with my first online workshop. I have recently launched it on the 25th of December. And it's a pre-recorded workshop wherein I have already recorded all of the videos and of the recipe videos, plus there are written notes, and I have spoken a lot about the science behind baking, because what I feel is baking is art plus science. You can't just start with a recipe. It's like, we used to give exams and we used to mug up the answers and just give the exam, and
just
that's
go and
about
write
it.
Yes.
Yeah. But then when you start understanding the particular topic and then you appear for the exam, I think your answer is better than the mugged up one. So that's the same thing that goes over here also. If you're just following a recipe blindly and you don't know what goes behind it, what is the, behind the scenes, then it is very difficult to continue getting the same kind of results. Or if you're planning to be a good baker, then it's difficult to achieve it. You must know before starting baking, the science behind all of the ingredients. As in, what does a baking powder do? Why do we have to add baking powder to a cake batter? So I have spoken a lot about the whole science thing. And pre-recorded workshops are out and people can watch them anytime, anywhere, because they can download it and they'll have access to it all the time. And they can also get back to me with their queries, and I'm available all the time to answer their queries. So this is something started new.
That's wonderful, right? So anybody, I mean, even a working mother can sign up for your workshop. Since it's not time bound, that helps a lot. And I can, if I'm in any part of the world, I can join in this workshop. I can follow the recipe, understand what is going on. Well, that's beautiful. Yeah. So is it still, are the registrations still open? Or can anybody join it?
Yes. They will be open lifetime, because I have recorded the workshop and it's there on my drive. Like, they'll get a Google Drive link once they register, and they can still register for it. And anytime they can register, and within few hours they'll have the workshop with them, and then they can try it anytime.
Wow, that's great. So I'll be adding the links in the description anyway, so that people can get in touch with you.
Sure. Thank you.
So, considering the fact that you conduct workshops and people can sign up for it, what are the tools that a budding baker would require?
Actually, thank you for adding this point into this podcast, because you know what? I feel that baking is a very expensive kind of career as well, because people end up getting so much of stuff, because all of the ingredients and all of the tools look so attractive and so appealing to your eyes that you feel like grabbing all of them, and you don't end up using all of them. So this is the most important thing I would like to tell to the budding bakers, that don't fall for this. When I started, I literally started with an oven, which was a 40-liter Murphy Richards oven, and OTG as in, and a hand mixer from Philips, and the basic ingredients. And you need a bowl and a spoon. That's about it. That's the only stuff you need for it. But these days it's like you get so many things like cake decorating tools, and you get those turntables and everything, and you end up buying it, and people just hoard it and they don't use it. So please do not fall for it. You just need these basic ingredients to start with, and as you work on a particular skill, then you can buy it. It shouldn't be the reverse way, that I'll buy stuff, then that will be, inspiring me to try a new technique. That's what people follow. But then don't fall for that. If you are really dedicated that you are going to try a new technique, then go and buy the stuff.
Right.
Otherwise,
I think it's very overwhelming, right? It's very overwhelming when you have a lot of tools and then you don't know what to do with it, and then you have this constant pressure that you put on yourself to learn those things because you already bought it.
Correct.
So it's better to go the other way around.
Correct. And you don't have time, once you are into baking and you're doing it professionally, it's a very time consuming process, as I already said. And you do not get time for experimenting a lot. So you just keep hoarding and it just keeps lying in your pantry, and then you feel sad about wasting your own money.
Yeah.
So don't
do that. It's quite basic. Like, you just need basic things to start out. You don't require a lot of things. So what if I don't have an OTG? Is a pan or a cooker fine?
Yes. That is also fine. A cooker is perfect. And if I have to tell you kind of from my experience, idli maker is perfect for cakes. It makes your cakes very fluffy. And you can try your cakes into that. You won't be ever disappointed. If your recipe is good, of course. Then you will end up getting a really
conditions
nice cake.
apply.
Conditions apply. There are so many factors that affect the cake, so I won't really put it out 100%, but then you should end up with a good cake.
Okay, conditions apply. If you have all the ingredients in place and you put everything, you weighed everything, put it in the pan properly, then it will turn out well. If it doesn't, then you can feed it to your family and they will judge you really. And I mean, hopefully, since they love you, they'll still eat it.
That's so true.
Pavam people. Well, Rashmi, what is one message that you would like to give bakers who are just starting out in this profession?
What I would like to say is, first of all, congratulations that you have chosen this career, because let me tell you, it's the most beautiful thing when you think about it like that a tiny little 6-inch food product is going to get smiles on a family's face, which is so beautiful, and the feeling itself is very, very satisfying. Because I'll tell you from my experience, pehle what used to happen, the paycheck from the job used to, give me happiness. But then now it is like that smile on the person who is collecting the cake makes me so happy and so satisfied that I'm like, chalo yaar, I'm doing something good. If that is happening, then I think it's the best thing that can happen to anyone. Like, you're getting money and then you're getting, satisfaction, and you are a part of someone's celebration. How beautiful is that? So congratulations for that. But then let me also tell you, I don't want to scare people, but then it is a very, very stressful and a very physically exhausting kind of a feel. You have to be on your toes all the time. You have to be standing. You can't sit and bake. You have to be standing for 12 hours a day or maybe more than that. You'll have to sacrifice your sleep, your me time, your family time, your food, a lot of things. But then if you're that crazy for it now, if you're dedicated that, no yaar, I want to do this and I enjoy it to the fullest, then I think you can do it. If that is not the case, then don't get into it, because it is a very demanding kind of a field. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get a cake out. But then at the same time, it is very, very, as I mentioned, it's a very beautiful thing that you can get a smile on someone's face. So it's very, very beautiful, because it can never turn monotonous, as I already mentioned. Every cake has a different story behind it. Like, all my experiences are so different with each and every cake that I have a whole lot of experience, and you end up having such beautiful memories. Even if they are good or bad, you make some disasters, but you learn from them. And it's new every day, and you can, because it's very, very creative, you can try anything. It's not there is no rule book for decorating cakes. That's the thing I love. that it's not that you have to decorate the cake in a particular way only. You can experiment, you can use your creativity and try and make it as personal to the person as you can. So yeah, that's something I would like to tell them.
That was a very wonderful message. I mean, seriously. Basically, I feel you enjoy the process so much that you stand for 12 hours. I did not know that. I'm not getting into baking. If that is the case.
Yeah, and that also I would like to mention that it is very difficult to, quit baking. Because people try and then they are like, कि यार नहीं मेरे से नहीं होगा. But let me tell you, it gets better with time. Because in the beginning, it's like you don't have to compare it with your corporate jobs or with your normal businesses wherein you make a particular product and you sell it and you get money. It's not like that. Every product of yours is going to be different, and every day you have to strive for perfection and for getting it creatively better. So do not quit.
Do not be disheartened.
Yeah, you shouldn't be disheartened because, as I said, every experience teaches you a whole lot of things, and you don't have to be discouraged. Just look at the people who you have made happy with your creations, and then I think that should be enough to keep you going.
Done. So anybody who is trying out and feels disheartened because there's a lot of work going in, I would just like to tell you that there's a lot of work going in all the professions. So if you plan to switch, then you have to remember that if you are loving the journey, if you love the process, then the end goal will be beautiful. So as Rashmi said, enjoy the process, keep on doing things, and just enjoy the expression of joy when people cut that cake and bring it in front of their families and loved ones.
True.
So coming to the final question, Rashmi, this is something I ask on the podcast. It's called, what does being settled mean to you, beta?
Okay. It's a very beautiful series started by you. I would love to appreciate you for that, because that's a question that we are being asked all the time, especially in this age. It's like all the time we are being asked this question. And what I feel is that, putting it in a very layman's language, that whenever at any point in time when you are happy waking up on a Monday morning and you're excited to do your work, then I think that's the point when you should consider that you are like kind of settled. That on a Monday morning, people are like very stressed that yaar jana hai, abhi wapas shuru ho gaya ye kind of thing. And when you can do it, when you are happy doing it, then I think that's the point where you should consider that yes, you are doing something right. And also one thing I feel is, don't measure everything with money. As in, even I have been in that phase and I'm guilty of doing that I used to kind of compare it with my IT job and the pay that I got at that time. I expected the same in the beginning of my this baking profession, which wasn't possible, of course. As such, business and job is very, very different. Being an entrepreneur is very, very difficult, and you have to give up a whole lot of things to get what you really want to. And especially in this field, it is because the competition is a lot. Plus, the job is very, very difficult. It's very difficult to be consistent and creative all the time. So it's very, very important that you do not compare it to the money, and you do not judge or measure it with the month end ka calculation. I do my calculations and then I feel ki arey yaar, okay, I haven't got as much as I expected. But then now I am in a phase, especially in this year, where we were surrounded with so much of negativity. I was so happy to be able to make people happy and making their occasions better. And whenever I get feedbacks from people, they are so beautiful. They are like, it was lovely and you made our day. And those are such big words. Like, you are making the day of a stranger. What better thing can happen to you? So I think when you will be in a phase where the money won't matter to you, and other than that, the satisfaction, or you will start enjoying the process of your work more than the outcome, at that point in time, I think you should consider yourself to be settled.
Wow, this honestly is a learning for me too, because I personally am guilty of doing that as well. Where I'm comparing my initials. It's just starting out. It's just a year young, and even I
Exactly.
do the same. I sometimes spiral down and feel, hey, I should maybe go back to a 9 to 5 job. But then, when I talk to people like you, I realize why I'm doing this. And as you said, that since I am posting my episodes on Monday, I love waking up on a Monday. So if I am
You
loving
already settled,
doing that,
Amrita.
yeah, then I think I'm settled. I'm fine. So thank you for this. I mean, this is a learning curve for me as well. Thank you so much, Rashmi. I had an absolute blast talking to you. This was a learning curve. I had, I learned so much about baking, so much about pastries, which I didn't know. So now I can go and, hold the collar of other bakers. Like, I want real pastries, I can do that. And thank you for creating workshops that people can follow, and also telling new budding bakers that you don't require a lot to start out, but just something that you love, do something that you love, and enjoy the process. So these
Exactly.
were my learnings from this entire episode, and thank you for that. So Rashmi, would you like to share the links of your website or your page where people can
Yes,
follow you?
yes. So my
Yes.
brand name is Trip to Avanile, and my website name is also with the same name, triptoavanile.com. And I'm by the same name on Instagram and Facebook as well. So you can follow me
Okay.
there and order for cakes, and yeah, make
Yes.
your occasions better. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much, Rashmi. I will be adding all the links in the
Thank you so
description.
much. Thank you for calling me over here. It's so beautiful to talk to you, and what you're doing is very very sweet and very inspiring in its own way. Because the way in which and the purpose with which you have started, so many people are dealing with it already. Because
Yes.
when you shift a particular career, then you're already going through a lot, and your relatives and the people around you are kind of pinpointing a whole lot of things, that
Constantly
why have you left your
pointing.
job. And I have been through it, and they were like, you were paid so well, what else did you
Yeah.
want? And I'm like, I wanted satisfaction, which I wasn't getting. So
True.
this thing that you have started is very very beautiful. It's very very inspiring, and it gives a lot of encouragement to people who doubt themselves, that am I doing good or not. It kind of inspires them. So it's really lovely to see that, and thanks for
Thank you.
making me a part of it.
Thank you, Rashmi. Those words were really kind, and I hope that somebody who's starting out and who is being bugged by this question, "Ki beta, when are you getting settled?" have some kind of answers for themselves.
Yeah.
And honestly, I am not looking to inspire. I'm just rather telling you that everybody is going through this process. So it's okay to be in the same process. It's okay to be negative sometimes. It's okay to feel that you are failing and not doing so well, but it is not okay to not try.
So true.
So keep trying, and I hope that you've learned something from this episode. So
Yes, for
with that, we
sure.
both will be signing off. So thank you so much, Rashmi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi! If you can hear this, that means you have reached the end of the episode. So, like, share, subscribe, follow, stay tuned to Unsettling. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can always reach out to me on my Instagram page, amritasukumar_unsettling, or send me an email on podcast.unsettling.as@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye.